Hi everyone. I, 28, female, recently lost my father to leukemia. He had been suffering for the past 4 years, and a couple of weeks ago he finally passed away, leaving me without any parents. My mom passed away when I was 7 years old. After that, I guess my dad had his fair share of relationships, but none of them lasted. However, a couple of years ago when I was around 18, he started dating Veronica. And 2 years later, they got married. So Veronica became my stepmom and her kids became my step siblings. She has two kids. Jared is 21 years old. Sarah's 18 years old. I'm not very close with any of them because when Veronica started dating my dad, I was already 18 and I was staying away from home for college. Whenever I would come home, they never made an effort to get along with me, and neither did I care much. After I graduated, I moved to another state for work, and so Veronica, Jared, and Sarah, I never really considered them family, and I could tell that the feelings were mutual. We were cordial with each other, that's all. Anyway, after my dad was diagnosed, I decided to move back closer to home so I could visit him as frequently as possible. I would visit home every weekend, but I noticed that whenever I was there, Veronica and her kids made it a point to steer clear of me as if I was contaminated or something, and were quite hostile. So I knew that they did not approve of me. But I didn't care though. I was just coming over for my dad, not them. Anyway, this went on for a couple of years, and in his last stages, I had pretty much moved in with them for the past few months because I wanted to be beside my dad. And they seem to be quite unhappy about it. So whatever is happening right now, in a way, I saw it coming right then. Now, coming to what happened after my dad passed away, I organized the funeral and everything. They did not help me at all and hardly even spoke to me. Then, a couple of weeks after the funeral, my dad's lawyer reached out to me and told me that he had left everything to me. And it was a pretty huge inheritance worth almost $2 million. It includes my dad's own assets and bank balance, whatever my mother had left me and whatever my grandparents had left me as well. All of it together came up to almost $2 million. So it was a huge deal and I was quite happy about it. But I didn't understand how he had left everything to me. I asked his lawyer about what had been left to Veronica and her kids, and I was told that to all three of them, he had left only $10,000 each, which is still quite a lot, but it's nothing compared to what he left me. So I was quite confused about this, but I kept my mouth shut because I did not want them to come after me. But it didn't matter because a couple of days ago, they decided to file a lawsuit against me because they believed that I had somehow manipulated my father into leaving everything to me and brainwashed him against them, which is why he did something like this. When I was served, it came with a huge shock to me because I had no idea how they even found out that I had received everything. But apparently, they had been very upset when they received only that measly amount of money and nothing else, so they demanded to go through the will themselves, and that's how they found out. Within a few days, they had spoken to a lawyer and arranged to file a lawsuit against me. Now, it's up to me whether I want to fight them over this or if I want to split it with them equally, but I think I'm going to go in for the fight. I spoke to my dad's lawyer and he told me something I didn't know, which explains everything, why they had been so hostile towards me and why my dad had not left him anything. Apparently, the original plan had been to split his bank balance and his assets between the three of us, and whatever my mother and grandparents had left me would come to me. He had discussed this with Veronica about a year ago, and it should have been fair enough, but she wanted the inheritance that my mom and my grandparents had left me to be split amongst herself and her kids as well, even though they were not entitled to it. That led to a huge fight between them, and apparently, since my father was running out of time and knew that he was going to pass away by the end of the year, he decided to change the will and leave everything to me because clearly Veronica and her kids were only after his money. But he pretended as if he had done what Veronica had asked, and she didn't bring it up again. However, deep down, my father knew that right from the beginning, especially after she got married to him, she had been all about his money and nothing else. Because apparently it was not just the money, but it was also the fact that all three of them, Veronica and her kids, regularly spent time with her ex-husband Jared and Sarah's biological father. There were signs, but he had ignored them so far, which he couldn't do anymore. So after the fight about the inheritance, my dad decided to set a private detective after the three of them, and that's how they were found out. So basically, in the last few months of his life, he knew everything, but he didn't let it on. I have to say, he played it pretty well. I'm actually impressed. Anyway, earlier, I had been feeling bad about them not receiving anything, so I was planning on splitting with them, but now I think I'm going to fight because I don't think they have any chance of winning. My dad's lawyer has made that very clear. Besides, the cards are stacked against them, and after what they did with my dad, I think it's important for them to be taught a lesson. I even sent them an email last night telling them that my dad knew everything and that they are going to pay for what they did because I'm going to make them. And they responded to it this morning, saying that they were aware of whatever they had done and that was their thing to deal with. But I just needed to be reminded that it was not just me who had lost somebody, but they had also lost my dad. So it was not the right time to be acting like this and being so petty and vengeful. And I don't know, that kind of threw me off. So do you guys think that fighting them would be the right thing to do, or should I just split it? AITA for wanting to fight the lawsuit that my stepmom and step-siblings filed against me over the inheritance that my dad left for me. Edit. So I'm really sorry. I just realized I forgot to mention a lot of important details. First of all, I would like to explain why exactly it was a bad thing that Veronica and her kids regularly spent time with her ex-husband. It was not because my dad was insecure or anything, but it was just that Veronica, when she had first started dating my father, had told him that she had absolutely no ties with her ex-husband because apparently he had been a terrible person. She said he had been a cheater and had abandoned his family, and she didn't even get any sort of alimony or child support from him because in family court, he had made it sound like she was the one who was terrible to him and somehow got rid of his kids without having to support them. He was very cunning, and apparently Veronica and her kids hated him and wanted nothing to do with him. So that was the story my father knew. But clearly that was not the case if they were hanging out with him on a regular basis and looked quite happy and at ease. At least that's what the photos say, the ones that the private detective clicked of them in restaurants. Who knows, she might even have been cheating on him, and I personally think that was the case. Besides, a huge part of the reason why my dad started to think that she was after his money was because when she first met him, she made herself look like a poor little employee in some small company who barely made enough money to make ends meet and had 2 kids to support and a deadbeat husband. That was her story. That was the picture she painted. And so when she started dating him, he made sure that she didn't have anything to worry about, at least financially. And she was quite happy taking money from him. He didn't think much of it. He just thought that she was happy that he was serious about her and wanted to help her out. During the year that they were together, she never let that act drop. She always pretended like my dad had rescued her and put up that whole damsel in distress act when all along she and her ex had probably reconnected along the way and they were just scamming my father. He realized it a little too late, but at least he knew and did what needed to be done at that point. Now, coming to the inheritance, my mom passed away from aplastic anemia when I was 7, so she knew that she was slowly dying. And as for my grandparents, they passed away of old age a couple of years ago. My parents had a joint will agreement of sorts, and afterward my grandparents also named me their beneficiary. But the terms and conditions remained the same, that I would be receiving everything, not when I was 18, But when my dad passed away, my dad had started doing well for himself, and it was going to be a considerable amount of money. So they didn't want me to be spoiled or anything, which is why it was decided that I would only be receiving my entire inheritance after there was no surviving member of my family left, which happened to be my dad. They had assumed that my dad would lead a long and healthy life, but unfortunately, that's not what happened. And I'm now going to receive $2 million as a 25-year-old. But honestly, I just wish I could have my dad back over the money. I know that that's not how it works, though, so I guess I'm just going to have to deal with it. Anyway, currently my biggest problem is Veronica and her kids, and I still have no idea what I'm going to do about the lawsuit. My dad's lawyer has been advising me that I should go ahead and fight because I have nothing to be scared of. The cards are stacked against them already, and they are fighting a losing battle. This is why they're trying to get under my skin and play with my head by writing that email, so I'll feel bad and they can capitalize on my doubt. Basically, they want to take advantage of the fact that I'm not as unfeeling as them. But I don't know, I honestly still feel weird about this whole thing right now. Update 1. Hey, so it's been a week since my last post here, and I've decided I'm going to try and give them a chance to back out of this themselves, because I've spoken to my lawyer and he has pretty much told me that there's no way they're going to get anything out of it. It's only going to lead them into more losses, and honestly, it's going to be a major waste of time for me as well. So I figured that I would just speak to them, let them know what their chances of winning were, which was basically zero, and tell them to back off because that's what's good for them. I wanted to speak to them without the lawyers first, so I called Veronica and had her put me on speakerphone so I could address all of them at once. I told them that anybody in their right mind would know that they really don't have a chance of winning this right now. So the best that they can do is just be content with whatever they've received, and even if it's just $10,000 each, it's still $30,000 together. Besides that, they're fully capable of making a future for themselves, so I would suggest that they focus on making their own way instead of relying on an inheritance that they're not even entitled to. I also told them that trying to emotionally manipulate me was not going to work because I knew exactly what they were trying to do. And while my father had been kind enough to overlook all of that in the past, I didn't care much about them, and I don't even like them. So they were really trying to pick a fight with the wrong person because I was not going to take pity on them once this commenced. In all honesty, that's actually what I had wanted to say to them, because once I figured out that they were trying to manipulate me, which was really not that hard to do, I knew that all along. I was just trying to see the best in people. But clearly some people don't deserve that. Anyway, that's beside the point. I just wanted to let them know that this was not going to work on me, and I wanted an outlet for how frustrated I was with all of them. I didn't need this lawsuit wasting my time right now, because I don't know about them, but I am grieving, and I already have a lot on my plate as it is. This was completely unnecessary, but whatever. I just wanted them to have a chance to quit while they were ahead. Unfortunately for them, they decided to be stupid about this whole thing, and they told me that they were going to do whatever they wanted, and it was actually them who had given me a chance to get out of this and play nice by splitting the inheritance with them. But now they were going to make sure that they got what they really deserved. And that makes the two of us, I guess, because now I'm going to make sure that they get what they deserve too. Update 2. So it's just been a day since I last spoke to Veronica and her kids, and today all of a sudden Sarah called me up. It was quite a shock for me because, like I said, her mother doesn't like her brother and doesn't seem to like me either. But with her, I've never exactly felt like she hates me as much as they do, I think. For the most part, she's just been indifferent to me, but even then, it was surprising that she reached out to me because the other day, while I was speaking to Veronica and Jared, she was mostly silent, and I just took that for agreement with whatever her mom and brother were saying. But today, she reached out to me, and when I didn't answer her phone call the first couple of times, she texted me saying that she really wanted to talk to me and that it was urgent. So I finally ended up picking up the phone, and she started telling me that she was really sorry about everything that Veronica and Jared were doing because I didn't deserve it. And she had always been against them, but then they were her family, so she had to keep her mouth shut because her own lifestyle also depended on them. So she couldn't out them even if she didn't agree about what they were doing. I don't know if she was being sincere or not, but she told me that I had to somehow get them to drop the lawsuit because if they went ahead with this, they would end up spending a lot of money on the lawyer, and they were definitely not in a position to do so right now because of that $30,000 that they received from my dad as inheritance is all they have to keep them going. Apart from that, Veronica never bothered to work or save in the past many years, so she has very little money, and Jared is still in between jobs, which is just code for unemployment, which has been going on for the past many years and will continue to the future as well, because he never went to college and didn't want to bother himself with it and could never bring himself to stick to one job for longer than 3 to 4 months. Sarah herself has just turned 18, so it's not like she can do anything about it. And she really wants to go to college, so she practically begged me to talk to Veronica and Jared again and get them to back off, because otherwise she's pretty sure that they will end up blowing through the money and lose whatever they have right now as well. Personally, I found it very weird that she was calling me to help her out, especially with regards to this. And also I found it quite unbelievable that after spending so many years with my dad, including the period where they were taken, Veronica had still not managed to save any money. So Sarah clarified that for me, and she told me that she did have a lot of things like luxury bags, clothes, and makeup and all that. So if she wanted to, she could easily live off of the money that she made from selling her bags and shoes and clothes, even if she sold them for cheap. And not to mention her jewelry, she could sell that too, and they would be sorted. I have to agree with that. I've never seen her wearing anything that's not from a luxury brand, so I'm guessing that's why she was not able to save. But the problem is that Sarah knows for a fact that her mother will never sell any of this because that's going to make her look poor or maybe look average. And that's something she can't accept. And apparently it's not going to be a problem for her because she can just move into her ex-husband's house and stay with him. In fact, that's what their plan is, since they're going to have to vacate the house by the end of the month. So apparently Veronica's planning to move into her ex-husband's house with her kids. Sarah explained that the two of them reconnected about 2 years back, and last year she got the kids involved as well, and she didn't want to betray my father, but she also wanted to build a relationship with her dad as well. So she ended up going with her mom's plan and stayed silent once again, allowing everything to happen without interference. It really made me very upset because it just all seemed very spineless and cowardly on her part. Anyway, like I said, Veronica had been cheating on my dad with her ex-husband for the past 2 years, and Sarah had admitted that herself. Even if she didn't say it, we had the photos to prove it. But whatever. I just don't understand why Sarah would expect me to help her out, because when it came down to it, she had never helped me or my father. She let things happen, self-admittedly, just because it was convenient for her, and never spared a thought about what the consequences of all that would be. Well, now she and her family are going to have to face the consequences. And I told her that the most I could do for her was give her my sympathies, but I was not going to interfere. She, her mom, and her brother, all three of them had used my father, cheated on him, betrayed him, and whatnot. So it was ridiculous of her to call me up and expect me to do what was good for them. I couldn't care less about whether we went ahead with the lawsuit or not, because the most that this was going to do for me was waste my time a bit, but for them, it was going to affect everything to do with their future. So naturally, the stakes were much higher for them than they were for me. But ultimately, it was their choice whether they wanted to see it through or not. I had already given it a chance. I had tried to speak to them, knock some sense into them, because I really did not want to waste my time. But clearly, they were not open to that idea. So I was not going to go ahead and talk to them again because that would just be debasing myself. And I made it very clear to Sarah, but she didn't give up. She kept telling me that she was really sorry about everything that had gone wrong. She was sorry about hiding things, but she really needed my help because she didn't know who else she could turn to. She had tried to convince Veronica and Jared, but they were pretty confident that they were going to get through this. There was no telling them the truth. They were so much in denial that they could not see the facts in front of them. If I'm being honest, after a while, I did start feeling bad for her because I could tell that she was really panicking about what she was going to do. Mostly, she was just worried about how she was going to make it through college because it was not like she had any relatives who would help her out, and neither did she nor anybody else she knew have money to cover the expenses, and she couldn't take out a loan. But she was pretty sure that if Veronica lost this lawsuit, there was no way her parents were going to support her. So there were a lot of things that she was worried about, and I could tell that she was in a bad spot. But honestly, there was nothing I could do about it because the truth was that she and her family had dug themselves into this mess by being dishonest and playing my dad for a fool. But as it turns out, he was no fool. So they really shouldn't have underestimated him, and neither should they underestimate me right now. In the end, I just told her that I wish her the best for the future, but I'm not getting involved in this. If she can, then she should try even harder to convince her mother to back off. But other than that, there's really nothing much I can do. And even if I could, I wouldn't because I personally don't care what happens with them. Just like they never cared about my dad. Then I hung up, blocked her so she wouldn't be able to contact me again. Update 3. So it's been a couple of days since Sarah called me, and today I finally heard from my lawyer, and I was told that they have withdrawn the lawsuit and will not be proceeding. So I guess Sarah finally got to her mom and brother. Good for her. I hope that she learned a lesson, and I hope that all of them did because I'm pretty sure that they are in a very difficult situation right now. For the past few weeks, I have been feeling very weird because, first of all, it was a lot of money that I was receiving, and it seemed selfish that I was not willing to share it with anyone, even if it was not going to make a dent in what I wanted for myself. But then I spoke about it with a couple of my friends and filled them in on everything that had happened, and they found it outrageous. They told me that I had not overreacted. In fact, if anything, I had underreacted. And I should have somehow tried to make sure that they didn't even get that $10,000 because they really did not deserve it. They said that it might have been a little too much, but at the end of the day, after everything that they had put my dad through, they deserved that kind of treatment. They told me that I shouldn't have felt guilty about doing any of this in the first place, but the fact that I did just goes to show that I'm nothing like these people. I'm so much better than them, and it felt really good to hear that. But ultimately, I'm happy I made the right decision, and I'm happy that they made the right choice for themselves as well. Not because of Sarah or whatever she told me, but just because they saved me a lot of time and energy that would have been wasted otherwise with the lawsuit. Anyway, now that I have so much money to myself, I guess I'm going to quit my job and start a business. I've been thinking about it for the past couple of days, so I think I'm going to start working on it as soon as possible. And in a couple of months, I hope I'll have something ready at least. In the meantime, I'll take a break. I'll try to travel and build a business model and get some investors on board. It's going to be exciting. I just hope that the future is better. I know that this is something that's going to make my father proud, so I hope that it goes well for me. Thank you so much to everybody who followed me on this, but I think I'm going to take a break from posting here for a while. But still, thanks a lot for all the lovely comments and supportive responses. See you all soon. Update 4. Hey, so it's been 2 years since my last update here, and boy, has life changed since then. I put my money to good use. I started my own business like I said I would, and it's been going well. It was a bit slower at the beginning, but we have started taking off in the past couple of months, and I'm really looking forward to building this up even more, the way my dad would have wanted me to. And I can almost feel him cheering me on from wherever he is, along with my mom and my grandparents. Anyway, Coming to what prompted this update all of a sudden, I heard from Sarah a couple of days ago. Apparently, she's in Spain now, away from her family, and has no contact with them and hasn't had a conversation with them in the past 4 months. She reached out to me to apologize once again for everything that she and her family had put my father through, and me by extension. She also told me that after speaking to me on the phone, she finally snapped at Veronica and Jared and told them to stop harassing me for the inheritance. So I guess I have her to thank for that. Anyway, after that, Veronica and Jared fell out with her, but they still took her with them so they could all move in with her ex-husband. And her ex-husband did not have the means to support all of them. They all had to take up jobs, including Veronica. She couldn't just sit at home and do nothing anymore. That arrangement lasted for a year before Veronica's ex-husband finally lost it, since Jared kept quitting and Veronica kept complaining and kicked all of them out. And as it turns out, he was just like Veronica, because he had been expecting that they would come to him with the inheritance, not without relying on him for help. I guess they really were a perfect match, but whatever. After that, Veronica and Jared had to move into a really small apartment. And Sarah struggled with them there for a while. But then a couple of months ago, she received an email from her great aunt on Veronica's ex-husband's side of the family, offering to help her move out and come and live with her in Spain, where she could go to college, get a degree, and make something of herself. Apparently, while Sarah had been talking to her cousins about everything that she had been going through, one of them had decided to speak about it with this great aunt, and she had decided to help Sarah out. She hadn't seen this woman ever since her parents got divorced, but he took the leap of faith and she ended up moving to Spain, and that's why her family cut her off. However, now that she's in a better place, she decided to reach out to me and apologize once again, and well, I guess I accepted. I guess she's not really as bad as the rest of the family. Still not that good, but I'm hoping that she improves with time. I'm quite happy with the way my life turned out, and I hope that for everyone else as well, things work out fine in the end. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.